What is going on? Episode 28, Locker Talk Live. We are talking Houston area sports today. I have Josh Cook and Matt Malatesta on the standby, ready to roll. Hopefully staying dry out there in Houston. Let's turn it over to Josh first. Josh, how you doing today, man?
What's going on? It's a great day out here in Houston. Had a little rain overnight. A little wind, not too bad, but we were okay up here in North Houston. So now tropical storm Nicholas has moved on towards the New Orleans or Louisiana area, so that it has moved on out of the Houston area. Hopefully clears up later this week for some good Texas high school football.
That is very good to hear. Very good to hear. I was worried about you guys, but good to have you back. Matt, how are you?
I'm great. As if Louisiana needs more rain.
I know. I feel like the poor state of Louisiana has just been hammered over the last few years, and anytime they see this coming, they're like, "Again? Really? What did we do to you? What did Ed Orgeron and LSU do to Mother Nature to make them so mad? I just want to know."
That was number
one national championship.
COVID hit. So COVID, hurricanes, national championship, we'll take it.
Well,
you can only win one every 10 years. You can only win one every 10 years. You can't get them consistently.
Well, one thing we can agree on is football is still going, still churning out, and we got some games this week. But before we do that, I want to talk about some of the games from last week. North Shore. Let's talk about that one. I mean, obviously we know North Shore's offense isn't probably where it needs to be yet, but still, when people hear North Shore, the term North Shore loses, that's something you want to pay attention to. Is this something that North Shore should be worried about heading into district play, or is this something that, hey, Westfield's a good team and they're going to be able to get over it to come district play?
Well, I think North Shore is a good team. Their offense is a little shaky. It's all about the quarterback. They're kind of trying to figure out their quarterback situation, which is understandable after Demetrius Davis heads to Auburn. But, I mean, they've had some pretty tough games, some tough opponents to get them prepared for district. But, I mean, C. King's in that district, right? Kaskaseta's in that district. Summer Creek's in the district. So the district is no longer a pushover. So they got to be ready if they want to win that district. Does it look like I have women's glasses on?
No, those are some fancy glasses. That's what you got on, Matt. Just call them fancy.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You talk about North Shore in the last few years, it's just been the presumptive assumption that North Shore is going to win the district. They're going to roll over everybody. Right. And it's one of those things that the time has changed now. North Shore, now we're not saying North Shore is not the North Shore of the past, but when you have to replace guys like Demetrius Davis and Shadrach Banks, those aren't guys that you just go out on the street and find another dude that is going to go pass for 10,000 yards in his high school career and score like 150 touchdowns, whatever it was that Demetrius Davis finished with. Their offense is very questionable right now. We thought their defense was going to be able to carry them earlier, and of course they did hold Westfield to the 27 points, 10 of those points coming in the fourth quarter. But you have Wendell Mitchell and Daryl Jean right now splitting time at quarterback, and it doesn't look like either one has really taken that step. The running game hasn't really been effective as early on in the season as well. But here's the thing about Westfield. Cardell Williams came out. He goes 14 of 25, 223 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. This is a huge win for Westfield. But can Westfield continue this momentum, carry this win, and carry it into that Region 2 where they're going to have to go through somebody like a Duncanville, a DeSoto, a South Lake Carroll? That's the biggest question for Westfield is, okay, you beat North Shore now. In a few months, can you go and win deep into the playoffs and get to AT&T Stadium coming out of Region 2?
That's a great question. I tell you what, I almost put Spring as our number one team in the city of Houston.
They are number 2 currently.
They're really good. But, I mean, Katy played a really good team at Dickinson, but we had our game Thursday night against Tomball Memorial in Spring. And, again, Tomball Memorial's not great, but they ain't bad. And, man, they're just so good and dynamic and so many interchangeable parts. They might be the best team in Houston right now.
Spring is amazing. I mean, it's what Bishop, what they've done for the last few weeks, especially the last 2 weeks, just the fast starts. I mean, you cannot get back on your heels against Spring. They're going to hang 42 points on you like that. I think it's back-to-back weeks. They've been up by 40 points at the half.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
at the end of the first quarter against Klein Oak, they were up, I think, 28-0. Then it's 42-0. And you can't come back from that.
No.
You're down 17-7 at the half. You're thinking, okay, we're in this. You're down 42-0. I mean, that's an obliteration. And Bishop Davenport is doing it with his legs. He's doing it with his arms. He's got an army of wide receivers. That defense is really solid. I mean,
They're
a couple
legit,
more weeks
man.
of this, Matt, Spring is going to be the number one team in Houston. And I mean, it might be a 1A, 1B kind of situation right now, honestly.
Well, Spring is going to go big school, and Katie's got the opportunity to potentially go small. So, you could kind of break it up that way. But Katie, they handled Dickinson. Dickinson is the best 1 and 2 team in the area. I mean, they've had a very tough loss against Ridgepoint and a very tough loss against Katie, and they're hanging in there. They got so many athletes, but man, once they get into district play, they're going to be scary.
Let me bring this up to you guys real quick. Obviously I'm looking at the rankings right now that y'all put out yesterday. You obviously have Katy 1, Spring 2, Atascocita 3, Westfield 4, and Bridgeland 5. If your teams 2 through 5, so Spring, Atascocita, Westfield, and Bridgeland, are you kind of looking at this year and how things have gone so far? And of course, things can change as always. But if you're those 4 teams, are you kind of looking at this year like, hey, this really could be our year to get to state and win state?
It's pretty wide open. I agree. I mean, I got to see Bridgeland firsthand when they played the Woodlands. Connor Wigman, it's interesting. I was at the game after. I mean, I interviewed him after. And the DC, Coach Bartolozzi at the Woodlands came up to him and just said, hey, Matt, let me talk to him for 1 second. And said, you're the best quarterback I've ever seen in high school, ever. And when you have a guy like that, he's going to keep you in games. However, their defense is probably not going to be able to hold up all the way through to a state run. So, yes, they're in it, but it would take some things to happen. Spring, Westfield, North Shore, Katy, Atascocita, man, we just don't. Josh, he carries the flag for Atascocita, and I don't. But I'm getting ready to because, man, those guys are legit. They're really good.
You're about to when they go up to Den Geyer this week and beat them.
If they beat Den Geyer,
you're about to.
They could be the number 2 team in the city.
I mean, you think about the gauntlet of non-district that they've been through. If they go up there and they beat Allen, then they beat Den Geyer. I mean, and Den Geyer haven't really played well. This is a big test for Den Geyer. I said it earlier in the week. This is the biggest game for Den Geyer up to this point because Atascocita is rolling there hot. Den Geyer, they're probably thinking, oh, we got to stand up for DFW and stuff. But if Atascocita makes it through this non-district slate undefeated, that's impressive.
Yes, totally.
100%. Yeah, the Atascocita, I mean, like Matt said, Josh, you've been carrying that flag, and they've absolutely impressed so far this season. I am interested to see what they do with Den Geyer because if they win that game, like Matt said, I mean, number 2, number 1 ranking coming next week for them for sure. I feel like so. Let's take a look. So we looked at those kind of top 6 teams. The Katie's through North Shore 1 through 6. What about 7, 8, 9, and 10? CE King, Tompkins, Cypress Park, and Dobie. Of those teams, I'm not saying these teams are going to end up in state or whatever, but which of these teams has the most promise? I know, Josh, you picked CE King to win last week against Ridgepoint, and they did. Which of these teams kind of is right there, maybe on the cusp, and have just really impressed you so far this season?
Go ahead, Josh. I'll let you start. Well,
CE King's run game is just impressive. I mean, that's what's flat out impressive. They have 2 running backs that have combined for over 1,000 yards through 3 games. One running back has over 600 yards through 3 games. I mean, it's just silly numbers. We knew this was going to be coming back for CE King. We knew their run game was going to be really good. They were going to have to replace their quarterback, but Derek Fitzhenry has just done an amazing job. He's a North Shore guy, Matt. You have to remember that he came from North Shore. He came from the John K system. So he's taken that to Sea King. He's built them from a 5A program, took the step up to 6A. They had the facilities. They have the players. I mean, they're right there on Sea King. Um, and they're so good, their run game. I just wonder if they get into a game where they can't run the football, do they have enough prowess to pass the ball enough? And then Pasadena Adobe, they've outscored opponents 188-6. They literally gave up probably kind of a garbage touchdown last week late in that game to Friendswood. It could have been 188-0. That's an impressive Dobie team that's playing football right now. The problem for them is they're going to have to get in the playoffs. They're going to have to take out some pretty big opponents to get deep in the playoffs. But Sea King is really impressive to me right now. I really know what Sea King is made of when they get into district play and they have to play Tascasita, Summer Creek, North Shore, and that crew.
I think it's CE King, Dobie, no way. Dobie, I was on the Dobie train last year. They went undefeated, made history, and laid an egg in the playoffs. An egg, bro. So my team is Cy Park, and here's why. They had 3,000-yard rushers last year. Harold Perkins is a beast. Owen Pee-wee is a beast. They got like big league playmakers for that team. And the style of offense they play is really hard to emulate in practice. It's like a triple option, wishbone veer. They run the ball every down. So that's kind of a hard offense to emulate moving into the postseason. So I think they could be really trouble for people.
Well, it's like when you're trying to get ready for a wing T offense that you don't see very often. You try to get ready for a Liberty Hill that runs the ball as much as they do. Yeah, Cy Park's a dangerous team. There's not enough people talking about him. Harold Perkins is phenomenal on both sides of the ball. And I think we had said earlier in the season they brought back 20 of their 22 starters or something because they were so young. It's a really good football team.
Yeah, it is.
And then really quickly before we look at some of the games this week, we got to talk some 5A. Fort Bend Marshall is doing Fort Bend Marshall things, still 3-0. And Katy Patel, 3-0, defeated Foster pretty convincingly, 30-14. Are these the two teams we really have to look out for as far as 5A teams in the Houston area, guys?
Fort Bend Marshall is great. I didn't know that their quarterback was going to be this good. He's a great leader, Banks. And Marshall's a playmaker, but you have to have a quarterback that kind of stirs the drink and rallies the troops per se. He is that guy. So he's exceptional. They're going to go far. I'm not ready to get on the Paytow bandwagon. Not sure how many great teams they played so far, but I think they're a cool story because they're so new.
Josh, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was banging the drum for this team early in the season and even the preseason because I thought people were sleeping on them. Is Magnolia West. I moved Magnolia West up to number 3 in our 5A rankings this season, or this week rather. Breno, Temple, Lufkin. I mean, those are the teams that they've defeated so far. Bilbo has been phenomenal coming out of the backfield for Magnolia West. Ben McGahee has a really good team. Brock Dalton, the senior quarterback, has passed for 383 yards, 6 touchdowns in his 3 games. You look at Hunter Bilbo, 407 yards and 3 touchdowns. In every game, he's gone over 100 yards rushing. Magnolia West is real. I don't get why everyone was sleeping on him in the offseason. I don't get why people are picking Magnolia over Magnolia West to be the best 5A team out of that district. Mag West brought back their senior quarterback, their senior running back, good defense. So, yeah, I'm flying with the Mag West Mustangs right now. They've beaten 3 quality football opponents. I think they're going to be a problem come district and come the playoffs.
They had a coaching change. That's why I was a little unsure about them. Their head coach went to the college ranks, and now they got a new coach. So, anyways, I think, that new coach is doing a tremendous job with the talent he was left.
Let's go ahead and move on to this week. I want to talk about specifically 2 probably the biggest games in this area, and of course, we can throw in more as needed. Let's start with Josh Cook's Tascasita Eagles. They are traveling back to Dallas again, so second time in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however time works. I'm not too sure. But they are taking on Denton Guyer. Like you said, Josh, Denton Guyer, their most impressive win, of course, was their, fellow ISD, Denton Ryan. But other than that, we're really not too sure. I know they have a new quarterback at the helm. So does Atascocita go in and get this win, guys? Let's talk about this game right now. Josh, let's turn to you. I know you are the Atascocita whisperer, if you will.
I got the Eagle whisper going on for sure. Gavin Session is a solid quarterback for Atascocita. As you see, my daughter invading the live show here. Hello, everybody. So Atascocita, Gavin Session, they're solid. I'll get this over to Matt for your thoughts on Atascocita.
Well, I think Atascocita is going to go up there and win. I think they're battle tested. They've been on the road. They're getting ready to go. They're going to Dallas, not for funsies, right? They're going up to Dallas because they want to play in that state championship game, and they're just getting used to it. They can take a third trip up there in a couple months. I think Atascocita wins this game. I think they're very physical. Their offensive line can push people around. They have a very diverse offense in high tempo, and it's hard to stop. Defensively is where I was kind of worried because I saw them early in the season in a scrimmage against the Woodlands. And their defense was decent, but I think they got everybody back and going. So they're fast. They're a fast defense.
And you have to remember Cam Dewberry, the 5-star offensive lineman. They got another offensive lineman coming up, a freshman or sophomore that is pretty big. I mean, you think about just the progression that they've had. They've had really good offensive linemen. They've had really good quarterbacks. Their defense comes in out of Tyrus Winfield. The running back is really good for Atascocita. This is a big year for Atascocita. I just think they're going to go up there. I think they're going to win this game. You mentioned, the win over Denton Ryan. Denton Guyer only won that game 14-7. It was only a 7-point victory. It's a victory. It's not an impressive victory by any means over Denton Ryan, which I think Denton Ryan's a 5A. I'm pretty sure. And I think Guyer's a 6A. So, yeah, I'm going to go Atascocita. I think they win this. I think they go 4-0 and keep it rolling.
Yeah, and I think what y'all have been talking about is pretty spot on in that, Atascocita is really setting themselves up for, this season. When you look at the quality of opponents they've played, they are taking this season extremely serious. They've got the talent, and I think they are just setting themselves up for a huge run come playoffs. So let's move on to our next game, though. Our next game, of course, is happening this Thursday. It's the VYPE Thursday night showdown game. It's the Woodlands. It's Katy, 7 p.m. If you live in that area, you can watch this game for free on the following stations that you can see. You can watch on Xfinity 710, DirecTV 674, AT&T Uverse 1697, and Consolidated Communications 43. So if you are in the Houston area, be sure to watch this game. It's going to be a big one. Katy, as we know, getting the win by 7 over Dickinson last week. Woodlands coming up short against Bridgeland. I know Woodlands is kind of the big question. I know Matt, you've kind of talked about, is their offense going to be able to kind of put up the numbers? Is the defense going to make the stops? Yes, they lost, but they've looked impressive in the loss. So, what do you think about this one? Is this a rebound win for Katy?
Man, it's tough. It's tough to pick this game. And here's what happens. When you play a team like Bridgeland sometimes, you're so up for that game. And they lost in a heartbreak. It was a really, really tight game. And it was a physical game. Woodlands had a couple injuries. But same goes for Katy. And the Woodlands and Katy have had tremendous games. Regardless of their records, tremendous games. They get up for it. It's kind of interesting. It's not at Legacy Stadium, but it's at Old School Roads. So it's going to be at Rhodes Stadium on the alternative channel. It's going to be interesting to see a battle of sophomore quarterbacks. Is Coger a sophomore or a junior?
He's a junior now. He was a sophomore last year.
Who was really good, wins a state championship in his sophomore season against Mabry Metower, the super soft, who was offered by Florida last week. He's got offers all over the place. He's just a sophomore, 6'6". Talking after the game also with Jim Rapp, the Woodlands coach. He was so impressed with Wigman. And he said, this is what we're trying to build Matower into, is a Connor Wigman. He can run. He's really big. He's got a very good arm. He's pretty accurate. He's getting really great big game experience because, I mean, going to Katy, they played Langham in a very tough game. They went to downtown to play Lamar. They played Bridgeland in a really tight game. So it's going to be close, closer than people think. I think it's maybe a 10-point game, and Katy comes out ahead. Katy's defense is just tough. The Woodlands is not going to not have seen a defense in the same ballpark as what they're getting ready to see with Katy.
Yeah, when we were doing our coach's corner yesterday, we were doing our picks, and this was one of the games that came up. And like Matt's saying, it's a tough game to pick because really, at first, I was really leaning maybe towards the Woodlands because as much as beating Dickinson was a big win for Katy, I didn't see it as that impressive as a win, just because C. King just beat Ridgepoint, which Ridgepoint beat Dickinson, so you kind of look at that, and they only beat Dickinson by 7. Caleb Koger didn't play really that well in that game for Katy. They had to run the ball a little bit more. He played okay. I don't think he even attempted more than 10 passes, which can be to the play calling, not to him. But maybe Matower is taking those steps and he's getting that experience. And I think as he gets more experience and he gets more of that game experience against these big boys, I think he's going to take that next step. Is it this game? I don't know. This is a tough defense to go up against and beat, but I really think this is going to be a close game. Katy, if Katy wins this game, which I think they will, I think they win it by a touchdown, just like the Dickinson game. I think it's going to be a close game. I could see it being like a 35-28 kind of game on Thursday night. AT&T Sportsnet, alternate channel, by the way. But I really see Woodlands and Matower taking that next step, and maybe this could be the game for them. I don't know if it's going to be, but if they win this game, it's a big step for maybe Matower in his development as a quarterback.
Yes, he's going to need help from the offensive line, which is big. The two Siraki brothers, one going to Baylor, they're going to be really, really play a huge role in this game, and he's got to get help from some skill guys to come up with some big lead catches. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going Woodlands. I'm going Katy by 10.
He almost did it.
That'd be crazy.
Hey, a guy we don't talk about a lot, we talk about maybe Matower about, but Marshall Harris has played really well on the defensive side of the ball for the Woodlands. Had a big interception, I think, in that one of the games to open the season to win the game. He had kind of the game-winning interception to close that one out. He's played well. You talk about that offensive line. That's what also gives me some confidence that maybe Matower is going to take so many steps forward this season, because a young quarterback, if you can put a great offensive line in front of him that's going to protect him and give him time back there, that really helps. You see that in every level. If the quarterback has time and they're a young quarterback, it helps them through their progressions and gives them time. They don't freak out and panic and start busting out of the pocket and doing silly throws and stuff. They have that time, and I think that's going to help his development this year. And like you mentioned, he picked up a Florida offer. Ray got an offer from LSU. He looks like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, come on. This kid's made for football.
Do you remember me saying my formula about the intimidation of state championships? That's why I say 10 points. That's a 7, and it's on the road. Tack on 3. I had kids that went to the Woodlands, and their best buddies played Katy in that first game to open up Legacy. And I got to talk to some of those kids who were in that game, and they said they've never been hit so hard repeatedly by the Katy defense. They're so sound tackling, and it kind of stuns you a little bit because, there ain't no arm tackles at Katy. They light you up, and you got to get used to that physical play. So the Woodlands is going to have to battle some of that. They have some young players that haven't been in the bright lights of what they're getting ready to get into on Thursday night.
And they gotta protect Mabry Matower from Ty Canna, the current USC commit.
Ball, man.
Pending.
How about Malik
Pending.
Silla?
Malik Silla, yeah.
it's just the list goes on of Bobby Taylor, the defensive back, going A&M. I mean, they're loaded on defense.
Once again, you can check out that game on AT&T Sportsnet Thursday at 7 p.m. on the bottom of your screen. They're for free at the bottom of the screen. Your cable providers, that will be the channels you can tune in to watch that game. Matt, you will be on that call with Todd Freed, correct?
Yes, sir.
There you go. Hey, before we go, I want to give you all the chance. Maybe, those are probably the two biggest games in the Houston area. Any other games people should be aware of before we head out for today, heading into the week?
Well, it's kind of a weird week. Josh and I talked about this the other day, that it's kind of, okay, you have kind of a hurricane come through here that messes things up with practice. And then it's kind of a short week because it's the week between non-conference and district play. So it's a little bit of a light schedule. Those two games, I really do like them.
Yeah, another game that I like that I think I might go to on Friday nights, Huntsville is coming to town to take on CE King. Huntsville is that perennial 5A power that always makes deep runs into the playoffs every year. We always see them kind of bump into Fort Bend Marshall for these epic, round 4 games here in Houston. So Huntsville's coming in to take on CE King. I think this is a big test for CE King. Can they beat Huntsville, which is a perennial 5A power, to go to 4-0, to keep it rolling there? So that CE King game is really fun. Then you got Clear Falls taking on Cinco Ranch. That's a battle of two undefeated teams. That game's actually, I think it's at Cinco, or it's at Clear Falls. So Clear Falls, is this a game? Can they keep it rolling from last season? Can they keep the momentum? Cinco Ranch is off to their best start since 2015 at 3-0. Can they go into 4-0? I know that team is feeling it right now. They finally have some momentum on their side. I mentioned Dickinson takes on Dobie. Dobie trying to go to 4-0, trying to keep that defense just rolling the way they have. They've only allowed 6 points so far this season. So those are the biggest games for me this week is a couple battles of undefeated teams, some battles between 5A and 6A powers that are going to be a lot of fun here in Houston. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the rain holds off later this week and we can play those on Thursday and Friday night.
Yes, please.
Well, hey, the games may be light, but they will be intense. So be sure to tune into those games. Once again, Woodlands versus Katy, AT&T Sportsnet. Watch that game there. And then Friday, we got the Atascocita versus Dayton Geyer game. That one will be exciting. So until then, we'll be back tomorrow. Josh, of course, he has his 2 shows tomorrow. Be sure to tune into those at noon. It's the St. Pius Coaches Show with Greg Canfield. And then at 6 p.m., Coach's Corner, Coach Williams, Coach McDowell. Be sure to tune in and watch those. Always great content for those 2 shows. Until then, I'm Whack. That's Josh Cook. That's Matt Malatesta. This has been our Tuesday Locker Talk Live. Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks, guys.